right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Dynamic Lifestyle Podcast. We have our guest, Greg Nuckols, here. Greg, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing good, man. Just, trying to, not work too much on this Labor Day.
It's hard, though. We're sickos.
I feel you there.
Yeah. So, Greg, we always like starting off our podcast with, just getting to know who our guest is. So if you could just tell us what your story is and, anything you'd like to tell us about yourself, that'd be great.
Oh, it's not the most exciting story, I don't guess. My name's Greg Nuckols. I'm from North Carolina. Started lifting when I was 13, 14, somewhere around there. Mainly to get better at basketball because I used to be athletic in another life. Then just a cacophony of injuries knocked me out of competitive sports. Knee stuff, ankle stuff, concussions. And so then I just turned my attention to lifting full time, which ended up working out because I'm 5'10", which isn't the ideal height for basketball anyways. So I think I picked my parents better for lifting, so getting knocked out of sports was a blessing in disguise. Been focusing on powerlifting since I was 14, 15 or so. Went to college for exercise science, got out, and have been coaching and writing ever since.
Nice. Gotcha. Really quick, what position did you play in basketball?
This guy, I was going to ask the same thing.
So I had a diverse skill set. So I followed a really weird growth pattern. I was like physically an adult when I was about 12. So I'm 5'10" now. I was 5'9" when I was 11. I've been shaving since the summer between 5th and 6th grade. So like middle school was great for me because I was a grown man and I was playing against children. And so, I was the biggest, strongest, fastest kid in everything. So, if you've ever watched the Little League World Series and you're just like, that guy has to be lying on his birth certificate. There's no way that like an 11-year-old is supposed to be able to throw a ball that hard. Well, that was me for about 2 years. That was like the peak of my athletic career. So I started out playing center and power forward.
Okay.
And then by high school, this pissed me off because the doctor said that I was supposed to be like 6'7" or so. Because he was just looking at the growth charts and like not paying attention to secondary sex characteristics at all. I was like, "Are you sure? Like, I'm already shaving." And he was like, "Oh no, you're right here on the growth chart." Anyway, that didn't pan out. But when he told me that, that's when I started really focusing on basketball. So I spent most of my childhood and early teenage years playing center and power forward. Then I get to high school and I have to transition to point guard in 1 year.
Yeah.
So that was a big transition, but it actually went pretty well. Because I'd always, so for the past 2 years, I've been like an undersized big man. So I played mostly high post, more as like a distributor role anyways. So it was just, doing that from the top of the key as opposed to the high post position. So
yeah, gotcha.
It worked out pretty well.
Right on.
That's awesome. All right, so you own Strength Theory, and I just want to know basically how you got started with that, and what was that aha moment where you're like, you know what, I got something here. I need to start this business.
Man, I'll tell you what, it was mostly luck. I am not the person that plans things in advance. Like, I just don't. Just take things a day at a time, do as good of a job as I can with whatever I'm doing, and then just capitalize on any opportunities that opens up for me. So with the site, what really got it started was just like, I've always been really into lifting, very passionate about it. And so my then girlfriend, now wife, I would like talk her ears off about it all the time. And she'd be like, "Greg, like, give me some peace with this lifting stuff. Like, why don't you just start a blog and talk to other people who want to hear about it 24/7? I was like, okay, that sounds cool. So that's why I started writing. And then Yeah, never really had any aspirations to do that as a job, to do it like full time. My preference is still just, good old fashioned in person training.
Right.
That's what I'm most passionate about. But after college, I had a job lined up back in North Carolina. My wife had an internship lined up in Orange County, California. Um, you can't really swing that commute, so it had to be one or the other. And she was the internship she had was the Dow Jones News Fund internship, which is apparently the most prestigious journalism internship in the country. So I was like, well, you have the better opportunity, so let's go pursue that. Didn't have any training jobs lined up in California, and like obviously I couldn't, because you can't go into a gym and try to find clients and be like, yeah, I may be gone 2 months from now, but just give me a shot. So it ended up working out really well, because by that point, just kind of organically, the website had grown to the point that I had an easier time finding online training clients, and I could start like monetizing the content itself. So I didn't go into it trying to make the blog a business, but at the point that we moved out to California and I kind of had to do that, I was in a position that I could.
Gotcha. So what is the big vision for strength theory?
I mean, really just to put great information about lifting out there so I think what we do that a lot of people don't do is make things as comprehensive as possible. Like I know for me, when I started lifting, I really took to lifting and I read everything I could about it from, bodybuilding.com, T-Nation, every magazine in the store.
Right.
I was cheap. I never subscribed to any of them. I'd like drive to Barnes & Noble and like grab them, drink coffee and read them in the store. But yeah, so I think a lot of people end up confused for one of two reasons. One, there's a lot of conflicting information out there and stuff that's just flat out wrong. And then two, good information that's not contextualized generally becomes bad information. So, for example, you could something that's good information regardless of context is energy balance, calories in, calories out. Like that's true. Like that's self-evidently true. But something like you need to tuck your elbows just a ton for bench press to where they're almost scraping your sides. That's something I did for a long time, because when I was coming up in powerlifting, equipped lifting was like the game in town. Like raw powerlifting was just starting out. It started a long time ago, but it was just having its resurgence. And so technique-wise, for geared lifting, you definitely do want to tuck your elbows as much as possible just to be able to get the bar to touch your chest. But that's probably not the best advice for raw lifting. Like you do still want to tuck a little bit to touch low on your chest instead of really high on your chest, bodybuilder style. But you don't need to tuck as extreme as you would in a bench shirt. So that's something that to the audience that information was being written to, which was mostly equipped lifters, it was great information. I did not know that wasn't good information for me when I'm reading it at 15, 16 years old. And so I wound up with a lot of elbow issues because of that. It took me a while to learn more and retool my bench technique. We try to put out really, really thorough information, and if anything, go a little bit overboard on contextualizing information, just so people know what they need to know and know how to put that information in context instead of, just dropping little tidbits on people that, may be good information for some people, good stuff that some people should apply, but may not be useful or applicable for other people.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, what you said about, contextualizing everything, because even Eric and us, me and him, whenever we do a video or a blog or we're talking to a client trying to, break down the science into more of kind of a layman terms, it's all about context. It really is. And I think a lot of people forget about that. So I think that was great. You actually mentioned that.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to kind of stay on the same topic, Greg. So, you're very active in the, health and fitness industry. You're a power lifter, you're a writer, you're an entrepreneur. So, in this time of, era that we're in, it's very easy to get just kind of sidetracked and lose distraction. And my question is, how do you stay focused within each day, each week, with all your projects, everything that you do, and just, all of your time management?
Okay, so I think what helps me stay focused is that I'm not an entrepreneur. My wife handles all of the business and design and marketing stuff for the site, for the business. So all I do is I coach, I read, and I write. And so, I learn stuff to become a better coach. I write stuff to help like crystallize ideas. Like that's the other big reason I started writing, because when you're just thinking through something in your head, it's easy to think you understand something better than you do. And then when you try to actually write it out and put those thoughts into words, and kind of like trace the logical progression of your ideas, it becomes much, much more obvious what you thought you knew but didn't know. Writing for me is part of the learning process. It's partially to express what I know to other people, but partially also to help me learn more. Because when I start writing, I realize then how much I don't know. So all of those things work together. Coaching, training helps me generate more questions. I read to get better at coaching people, and I write to make sure I'm not blowing smoke up my own ass. Can I swear on this podcast?
Oh, absolutely. Be authentic.
Okay. We're a fan of that.
Okay, just making sure. So with that in mind, it's not that hard to stay focused, because all of those things do interact. And honestly, the biggest reason I brought my wife on to help me with the business stuff is that when I first started trying to do all of it, it was just a complete shit show. So I don't have a ton of great advice for people in that situation, because that's something. Actually, no. Here's my advice: find what you're good at, do it, and if there's something you're bad at that you have to do, you just suck it up and do it. But if at all possible, outsource. Right. Stick with your core competencies. I know enough about business stuff and marketing stuff that when me and Lindsay sit down to discuss strategy or something, that I have hopefully meaningful input. But that's what she does. She has more time in the day to focus primarily on stuff like that. Be minimally competent at enough things that you can contribute, but focus mostly on your core competencies and outsource the rest if at all possible.
Yeah, I like that a lot. One of our mentors told us, do what you do best and hire the rest, and that's exactly how I think, is just have a baseline knowledge of everything. After that, just outsource it.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm a big fan of people's day in the lives of. So basically, what they do the minute they fucking wake up to the minute they go to sleep. So walk me through a day in the life of Greg Nuckols. Literally be detailed, what you do in the morning ritual, all the way to a wind down routine before you hit the sack.
Jeez. Okay. Wake up, drink coffee, read for a little bit to get my brain going.
What do you read in the morning, though? Just curious.
Usually 538. Do you know Nate Silver's blog?
No.
It's like a news website, but it's news that you can tell with numbers.
Okay.
So usually if there's data and statistics, they on something related to world events or politics or sports or something like that, they'll write about it. So their sports coverage is fantastic, because there's huge data sets for everything sports related.
Nice.
And similarly with politics, but yeah, so that's where I get most of my news from. So I get up, drink my coffee, read some 538.
What time do you get up?
It depends on when I went to sleep the night before.
Okay.
I'm a night owl. I'm most productive between about 9 and 2 or 3. So there are times in my life that I try to get on like a normal adult schedule where, I'm going to bed at like 11 or midnight and getting up at 7 or 8. Usually though, I'm sleeping about 8 or 9 hours, but it's more like going to bed at 2 or so and getting up at 10 or 11.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah, so getting up sometime in the late morning. And then I start the day by knocking out the stuff I don't like to do, just to get that off of my plate. And that's usually answering emails other than client emails, answering Facebook messages, and taking care of social media. That's the stuff I'm not crazy about, so I get that done. Then usually I break after that for like a quick stretching session, just because that makes me feel good. And when I eat, it's usually like a breakfast lunch combo. I guess I eat brunch every day. Yeah, so that's when I break for my first meal, stretch a little bit, and then after that, get on the stuff that I do, like that I'm the most passionate about. So that would be, client emails, updating people's programs. Usually I do that first, then read a little bit. So that's usually journal articles. So that chunk of work will generally last for 2 to 3 hours or so. Then after that, I usually take a short break, generally to play basketball. Now there's a basketball court like a quarter mile from my house, which is nice. So yeah, if the group of guys that generally plays there is getting together, then I go play basketball for a bit. Come back, put in another 3 to 4 hours of work or so. So that would generally be more reading and writing. Then after that, go to the gym, come back, eat dinner. I don't have like a set wind down routine. It's usually watch like an episode of TV or play some Smash Bros. And then, hop in the shower, go to bed.
There you go.
Gotcha. Nice. So what do you enjoy most about being a coach?
What I enjoy the most is generally like I enjoy working with all types of clients. I think the ones I like the most, though, are the ones who initially seek out coaching because they don't feel empowered. They think like I don't know if I can reach the goals that I have set for myself. I don't know enough. I don't understand enough. They just, they feel overwhelmed, maybe like external locus of control, like they don't have everything all together. And then just over time, as we work together, just like seeing their confidence in themselves grow a lot. Obviously while they're reaching the actual physical goals they had set for themselves as well. But yeah, just helping people be more confident and resilient. That's the biggest thing that I like about coaching. And usually that does become like, that's just a natural side effect of becoming like more physically adept as well. When you're more confident about what your body can do, that makes a lot of people just naturally more confident as a person. But, then also seeing like, I set these goals for myself, I put in the work and I accomplished it. Maybe that's going to transfer to other areas of my life as well. And yeah, you can, it tends to have like a pretty big impact just on people's whole psyche. And that's the thing that is the most rewarding to me. Because, I mean, straight up, like, I get hyped when someone takes their squat from 200 kilos to 250. Like, that's cool, but at the end of the day, like, it is just working out. That's not what you spend the majority of your day doing. So if you can take those experiences in the gym and the lessons you learn in the gym, and it helps you just generally become a happier, more confident person, that's more rewarding to me.
Gotcha. Love it, man. That's awesome. Yeah.
So let's stay on this the coaching side of things. So let's make this next question twofold. So basically, what is your biggest surprise, as being a coach, and what's your biggest surprise as being an entrepreneur thus far? Even though you say you're not an entrepreneur.
Biggest surprise with coaching. Um, hmm. So okay, this was a big surprise for me, and this could just be like just basic like projection because like I'm the dude who like before I do something, I want to know like why I'm doing it and why it works and what's going to happen. Um, and so I guess I just assume that's the case for everyone. Um, the thing that probably surprised me the most is how a lot of people aren't like that, and a lot of them are more just like, okay, just tell me what to do, I'll do it, and like I'll trust you and get the results. Which like that makes my job easier, but that surprised me because I guess I just expected everyone to be like me. I think we all have that kind of basic assumption. Yeah, that was surprising to me. Most surprising thing about being an entrepreneur. Geez, okay, so not to get like too negative here, but like, just kind of like how needy and stupid a lot of people are. Like, so okay, when we're like launching a product and sending pitch emails, like people send like these nasty emails in response, and like we don't have really pushy sales campaigns. Like, we make a point of not doing that, and yeah, people are like, "Oh, you're the worst. You're such a sellout. Fuck you."
Jeez. Wow.
And like, look, like what you're saying to me right now is literally not going to impact what I do in any way whatsoever. Like, you're wasting your time writing this message. Like, there's an unsubscribe button right there at the bottom. Like, you can click that and never see one of these emails again.
Yeah.
And then, so okay, this is really random. But this was super surprising to me as well. First product we launched was March of March of 2014. Mm-hmm. And I still occasionally get emails from people being, and so since that we moved to another file delivery system, mm-hmm. and so we let our membership with the other one lapse, and I'll occasionally get emails from people. It's like, hey, I bought your books when they came out, and I never downloaded them, and now it's saying the link doesn't work. I'm like, bro, like, that was 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
No, year and a half ago. I don't know. No, close to 2.5 years ago. It's like, dude, you bought this product 2 years ago. Why are you just now downloading it?
Oh
like, it's fine. Like, I'll send them the file. Like, it's no skin off my back. But still, that every time it happens, I shouldn't be surprised by this point, but I'm still surprised.
Yeah, it's hilarious too because we've gotten that a lot too, and when we launch products and stuff, and it's like it seems to be like the minute you talk about money or just talk about a product, it's like it's not right, quote unquote, in the fitness industry. Like, it's like horrible to ask for money when you have an expertise. You're trying to solve a problem, solve people's pain points, and put it into a simplified product, and yet it's looked at as a negative. So yeah, it's just tough. We get that all the time, and then the same thing with like the links and stuff. I mean, it's hilarious.
We could do a whole fucking episode on this.
Yeah, and then the other thing that kind of drives me a little batty is when people who are like, oh, like, you're getting so greedy, like, you're just selling products all the time.
Oh,
that's not true. We sell like 3 products, and one of them is like absurdly cheap. But yeah, like we have what are effectively like 3 full-length books on the site with a 4th one coming out soon. One on programming, one on squatting, one on benching, and deadlifting should be out next week after next, something like that. And they're all like, if you copy and paste them into a Word doc, like they're all right around 100 pages of just like free information on the site. Like, they took me months to write, and they're just out there for free. And so, people saying that I'm like holding back all of this and like making them buy a ton of shit, like, that's not true. Like, that's not even close to true. And also I feel like people have really short-term memories about that stuff, which is why it doesn't bother me. So like during a sale, there will be a ton of like negative messages like, you're a shithead, you're so greedy, blah, blah, blah. And then like literally a week after that, when you put out like a new, like really great article, people are like, oh, this is so cool that you put out so much information for free. And it's like, man, if you saw my inbox last week, but anyway, so yeah, people have short memories about that stuff anyway, so.
Yeah, it's tough to please everyone. So,
like, honestly, now more than anything, I just think it's funny. Like, yeah. I laugh.
Yeah, you have to. Okay, let's shift gears. So, what has been the lowest point in your life, and how did you kind of reframe your mindset to think of it as like a blessing in disguise, as opposed to just let it just overtake you and just really just defeat you?
Ooh. I don't know, man. Like, this is probably a shitty thing to say, but like I haven't had that many low points in my life. Like it's been a pretty good run so far.
It's good.
I mean, like this wasn't like a huge deal, but the concussion that knocked me out of sports, that was that got me down for a while because I was really, really into sports. Like, played year round, played on traveling teams. Like if I wasn't in school, I was usually at a tournament or some sort of sports practice. So, it was a pretty bad concussion as well, like with some brain hemorrhaging. Doctor said, like, if you get another one this bad, you'll probably die. And so they said, like, I couldn't play any sports with any sort of contact element for at least 6 months. So that knocked me out of football and basketball that year. And so that was a big adjustment just because like so much of my life had revolved around that stuff to that point. And also like it took a while just to mentally recover from that. Like, I was constantly in a fog. I had insomnia for 6, 8, 9 months or so. Just like unable to sleep more than like 4 or 5 hours a night on a good night. And yeah, just I'm usually like pretty sharp and lucid, and just I couldn't remember anything. Like I couldn't remember words. I'd be talking and just completely forget where I was in a conversation. Wow. Like I felt like I was like drunk and high, but not in a good way all the time. And so yeah, I mean it's. And it went on long enough that I was wondering like if I would ever be back to normal. But I don't know. I don't have any like inspiring advice for how to deal with that. I just waited it out and things got better. So.
Hey, that's the way you dealt with it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then other than that, I mean, like I'm a pretty easygoing person. Like stuff doesn't really tend to bother me that much. Well, like about a month ago, we totaled our car, and like my arm was like tore up and bleeding a lot. Me and my wife were actually heading like on our anniversary trip at the time, so like that was ruined. And yeah, about 5 minutes, I was like, oh god, this is the worst. And then after that, I was like, well, it already happened. Like I can't go back in time and change it. Right. So had some beers in the back of the car and just popped a beer and hung out waiting for the tow truck to show up. So yeah, it took me about 10 minutes to be like completely chill after something like that. And I think a lot of that is just how I'm wired. Like I'm very type B, very easygoing.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. Thanks a lot for sharing that, man. Yeah. Appreciate that. So the last question we have before we hop into what we call rapid dynamic questions is, if you were to start all over again with your journey being, say that strength theory was erased, say that you had no personal training experience, no online coaching experience, and you want to tap into this business, what kind of advice could you give to somebody that wants to start a blog similar to strength theory, that wants to get into coaching online and do personal training?
Don't do it yet. Like honestly, that would be my biggest piece of advice. And that's not business advice. That's just kind of like ethical advice. Like I see a lot of people getting into it that really have no fucking business getting into it. They don't know what they're talking about. They have no experience whatsoever. So, at the very least, read some textbooks, educate yourself. Ideally, go to school and get a degree. So, that'll be a few years. And then find someone who you can apprentice under, get at least a couple years of like hands-on experience coaching people. And then once you're very, very confident that you can deliver a good product to the people you're coaching, then get into it. So, instead of diving into it head first, taking people's money, doing a shitty job, and hopefully improving over time, cut out that step. Like, know what the fuck you're doing before you start. And that is not profit maximizing advice. That's going to take a lot of time and a lot of your own money to get to that point. But I think just from an ethical perspective, it's very important to get to that point before you start charging for your services.
I love that. Oh man, I love it. Yes. Okay, so let's get into the rapid dynamic questions. So number one, right. What are you currently doing self-development wise?
Same stuff as normal, man. Working out, reading a lot. I used to be really into meditation, got out of it for a while, and working on getting back into it again. Nice. Nothing crazy, just 15, 20 minutes a day of mindfulness meditation. As chill as I always am, I think it made me like even a little bit more chill and just generally happier. So yeah, just stuff like that.
What do you like to read outside of just like, fitness stuff?
I'll be honest, man. That's most of what I read these days. I'm reading a book on home brewing right now. Okay. Because I want to get into that. And yeah, I read some. Yeah, most of what I read is nonfiction. Book I finished fairly recently was Sports Gene by David Epstein, which that was a really, really good book. Probably the best thing I've read in the past year or so would be, and the title sounds crazy, but I promise, like, it's an exceptionally good read. It's called Power, Sex, Suicide, Mitochondria, and the Meaning of Life by Nick Lane. Okay. And it is a book about mitochondria, which is just as cool as it sounds like. So it really gets going like in the first chapter, because like it had been recommended to me by a lot of people who are like really smart, and I trust their book recommendations. But I was thinking like, this is a book about mitochondria. Like, that's a single organelle. Like, how interesting could this be? And it jumps right into. Do you know what the Fermi Paradox is by any chance?
No, I don't.
Okay, so it's basically the like the conundrum of, we are intelligent life living here on Earth. There are billions and billions and billions of Earth-like planets that very well could be habitable out there in the solar system. So odds of us being alone out there are very, very small. So why have we not made contact with intelligent alien life yet? And there are a lot of, and so obviously, like, this is mostly like a philosophical question. There's like, obviously we don't have like hard data on aliens. So there have been a bunch of proposed solutions to it, but it jumps right in with, well, maybe the reason why we haven't run into intelligent life out there in the universe yet is because of mitochondria. And it basically goes into like how it's fairly likely, or like not all that unlikely, that like simple like bacterial type life would develop in like an atmosphere like the early Earth, but for mitochondria to develop, for the bacteria that became mitochondria to develop and then be taken into the host cell, don't like lose their DNA, lose the ability to be like self-functioning bacteria and just become an organelle. how that it was very, very, very unlikely to happen, like much, much more unlikely than for life to develop in the first place, and how because of like the constraints of energy development work, you need something like mitochondria for complex multicellular life to develop in the first place. And I know this is way off topic, so
oh no, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So essentially, the way bacteria produce energy is they also have anaerobic respiration the same way we do, but for their aerobic respiration, it's across their cellular membrane, and so they're constrained by surface area to volume ratio. So the bigger something like that gets, volume increases faster than surface area does. But since the surface of the cell is what they use for their aerobic respiration, if the volume increases way, way more than the surface area does, then essentially there's not, like the cell loses the capacity to produce enough energy for the volume inside. And so that's why you're never going to find a bacteria the size of a hamster. Just it wouldn't be able to produce enough energy due to the size of its membrane relative to the volume. But then when you have mitochondria, that solves that problem. And it also allows multicellularity to develop. So with mitochondria, you can have a bunch of them inside a cell. You can have a much, much bigger cell. That's why eukaryotic cells tend to be much, much bigger than prokaryotic cells. So you can have multiple mitochondria within the cell. The mitochondria themselves can grow. They can multiply. So you can have much, much bigger cells and still be able to produce enough energy for them. And you can also have multicellularity because with prokaryotic cells, all or most of them have to be exposed to the environment around them for respiration to take place. But with eukaryotic cells, you can have something like blood vessels to deliver the oxygen and nutrients to those individual cells, and they can carry out respiration inside a body. So yeah, that is the launching point of the book. I'm thinking it's going to be about like cardio or something. And it launches in with aliens. And I'm like, what? This is awesome. So yeah, that was the proposed solution to the Fermi Paradox in that book. That essentially we should expect the universe to be teeming with bacteria and single cellular life, but the precise conditions necessary for eukaryotic cells and thus multicellular life to develop are much, much more uncommon and much, much rarer than even for life itself to develop in the first place.
Right. Wow. Jeez, I'm gonna have to message you for that book title again when we're done.
It's Power, Sex, Suicide, Mitochondria, and the Meaning of Life.
Gotcha.
By Nick Payne.
Okay.
All right, next question. What do you like to do for fun? And then I want to know, too, what your favorite beer is.
What I like to do for fun, basketball and Smash Bros, and lift weights. My favorite beer is either the West Lateran 12 or the Rockford 10. The West Lateran 12 is better, but you can't find it anywhere. They don't brew that many per year, and it's really, really expensive. So it's definitely like a special occasion type beer. But the Rockford 10 and also the St. Bernardus ABT 12 are close to as good, but they're cheaper and you can find them more places.
They need to step their beer up out here in Cali.
You can. We talked about Yard House before we went live here.
Right. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I had the St. Bernardus for the first time at Yard House.
Okay.
And if you go to the one in Costa Mesa, I'm pretty sure they have both St. Bernardus 12 and another one, the quadruple from La Trappe, which is a little too sweet for my taste, but also a good beer in that style.
Gotcha. Definitely going to try those out.
Good.
So Chris and I wrote a book by the title is The New Era of Fitness. And my question is, do you feel that we are in a new era of fitness?
Yes and no. I think, just to use like Silicon Valley jargon here, I think social media and YouTube have disrupted the fitness industry just as they have a lot of different industries. information. There's a lot more information out there, and it's a lot more readily available. So that that has benefits. So like niche communities that maybe don't have access to like large publishers, like people who aren't getting in like Men's Health, Men's Fitness every month, can still get their message out to a big audience because of social media. So that's a positive. And then also, there's still plenty of bad apples, but there's at least mechanisms for exposing and outing the really bad apples. So what's it called? I don't Instagram that much, so I'm blanking on the name. Shreds? Is that what?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that shit blew up in their face in a big way, which was great because they seem like scumbags.
Yeah.
And so that's there is some degree of quality control mechanisms like built into social platforms. On the other hand, really, really bad information can spread a lot easier, and also less ethical people can tend to build an audience faster than their detractors can tear it down. Right. So there are obviously also people are much more prone to information overload as well. So yeah, there's good and bads with the rise of social media in the fitness space. But I do think that would qualify as a new era. I wouldn't necessarily say it's made the game better or worse, but it has definitely changed it.
Right, gotcha. Okay. I like it. All right, last question we have for all of our guests is, what does it mean to you to live a dynamic lifestyle?
Just constantly trying to improve in a way that's meaningful to you. So, I'm still working at trying to squat 800 pounds. That's something that animates me and that I'm training towards. If that sounds like a terrible goal to you, don't do it. Find what is meaningful to you and work towards it, and just constantly try to better yourself.
Gotcha. Awesome. All right, Greg. So I want to personally acknowledge you, and I know this is coming from the other half too, because we think the same, ask a lot of the similar questions. But this is the first time we've actually talked over Skype, but we've messaged through Facebook, email, everything like that. And I just want to acknowledge you for the work that you've been doing the past, I don't know, 3 to 5 years. The content you put out, the evidence-based stuff, just everything you're doing for the industry,
integrity, everything
you're doing for the industry to make it a better place and just bridge that gap between science and application. So, thank you so much for everything you've done.
Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. And thank you for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. You're very welcome. So where can our listeners find you?
Stringtheory.com, which is soon going to become strongerbyscience.com. So, here was something that it shouldn't have surprised me with entrepreneurial stuff, but it did. My website is based on a pun, so it's strength theory, sharing the TH. So string theory, like, the branch of physics. So, hopefully, like connoting both strength training information, but also like scientific and kind of nerdy. I was hoping that would come through in the pun, but no one gets the pun. And I realized, because I'm a Southerner and we pronounce strength. And so the pun works for the Southeast and nowhere else. I didn't realize that. So yeah, my provincial pronunciation really screwed me there. So anyway, it's currently stringtheory.com, STRENGUTHEORY.com. Within hopefully a month, it'll be strongerbyscience.com. No puns worked into there at all that I can tell. So yeah, that's where I put all of my writing. I'm also on Facebook. So String Theory is my Facebook page. Probably more active on my personal Facebook account, which is just Greg Nuckols. Also on YouTube, not very active on there. Also on Instagram, it's mostly just pictures of my dog. So yeah, probably Facebook and my website would be the best places to reach me.
Gotcha. All right, awesome. So we'll have all that in the show notes. So Greg, once again, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
All right, man. We'll talk soon. Have a great day.
All right, Greg. Thanks, guys, for tuning in to our video. We really, really appreciate it. And before you guys go, make sure to subscribe below to our newsletter so you guys can get our free and new book, The 4 Pillars of Becoming Dynamic Within Fitness.